feasibility.
Any other discussion? All right. There's no ordinance to be dealt with. This is ordinance.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
I would like to, I don't think it needs to be necessarily a resolution or a motion, or maybe it does, but to have Bo go ahead and make a presentation and draft something up and give it back to us. I would certainly be willing to look at that and possibly sponsor it.
Doesn't need to be a motion.
I don't think so. I think Bo can do that on his own without us directing him. So I think he'd be willing to.
Okay.
And then I'd be glad to bring it up to the council.
All right, thank you.
Look at.
All right, no other discussion. Now we'll move on to number 7. Is that correct? Is that the one we deleted or added to? Got kind of lost in the flurry a while ago. It's added to. All right. Discussion about franchise fees. Motion?
Motion to discuss franchise fees, particularly its definition and where it's at in the budget.
All right. Mr. Pownall, need a second?
Second.
Made and seconded. Discussion?
Being that the last council approved a franchise for mopeds, and then it was increased to higher power franchise requirements, it got me thinking about, number one, when we were having a budget workshop, for those of us who were either in town or not sick enough to attend, that franchise fees are kind of broken out in different places in the budget as far as revenues. And to me, if what we're receiving is a franchise fee, I don't care if it's $20,000 from Carroll County Waste or $500 from the local moped operator, I think it needs to be a little bit more identifiable in the budget program that we are currently using. Really, pardon my English, sucks. But what really got my attention was there was a sign across the street from Pizza Hut that are coming in April or late March or whatever, rental of motorcycles. And I got to thinking, what's the difference of being allowed to go out and buy a stock of motorcycles and rent them to run on the streets of Eureka Springs whenever somebody has to get a franchise for mopeds or horse and buggies or taxis or whatever the case might be? And maybe there's something I'm missing, just the fact that it's not been something that's come about before. But should that not be in the same ballpark as mopeds and carriage rides?
Those folks came in yesterday to ask about what it would take to get their business rolling and perhaps be a franchise. And so it's in the works to have that formalized.
Well, we don't have anything to cover motorcycles under franchises, do we?
Not yet.
So
They don't
I mean,
intend to have bikes ridden in town.
Well, I mean, when you look at a sign that says motorcycle rentals available coming in March or April, it's going to be a little tough getting from Pizza Hut to the outskirts out by the cemetery or whatever without riding them through town or around town. I don't know how the police force would enforce rentals being
No license,
to
no
go
ride.
one way. I think it's something that we need to look at, not as necessarily just a potential revenue source, but for consistency, because if I were the moped franchise holder and across the street and down the street from me was somebody renting motorcycles at no cost to them,
They're
I
off-road
think I'd be
bikes.
very upset.
Ken, they're off-road bikes. They're not anything like mopeds.
It
I know
doesn't say that. The sign says coming in April, motorcycle rentals. And it's within the city limits.
Apparently they're not renting them yet. Is that correct? They're still trying to get it all together. They're not renting them now.
They are not renting them now.
Okay. Mr. Barrett.
Mr. Mayor, if I'm not, I thought we had, when we did we revised our moped ordinance to the franchise, so he would have basically a definition of a motorcycle. Mopeds are limited to anything under 49 cc's.
49 cc, yes.
He was wanting to rent like the 150s, Honda 90s, things like that, which are technically motorcycles. And we allowed that in our moped, and we had changed and amended our moped franchise to allow him to do that, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, I'll check that out.
And it was a single person across from the Pizza Hut who had the moped.
The other way, yeah.
Yeah, down there by the train thing, and he had a special route, and he had, I mean, he was going to have your motorcycle license,
All the stuff, yeah, goes with it.
thing, and the whole bit. But he was wanting to rent the 90s, because I mean, growing up here, I can remember we had 90s, Honda 90s, and 150s, and so I'm sure that's what it was. But you might check on that.
And part of that was because there's not been too many of those meetings that I missed because Mr. Weaver's run over my toes too many times. Part of that was because couples were showing up and the one wasn't maybe qualified to drive based on their standards, so they wanted to increase the CCs. But I still think it was still fell under the category of moped definition under the moped franchise. I only bring it up because it's fairness to one is fairness to all.
Any other discussion? All right, thank you, sir. Number 8 is concerned citizen email, which is tabled till
tabled that.
tabled till 3/17. There's no other business. Under new business, we'll go to city council comments. Mr. Berry, you want to start?
I have nothing.
Mr. DeVito?
Well, even though I'm against it, I have an obligation to the public to bring up the fact that we had an election about a deer hunt in Eureka Springs, and that needs to be on our agenda. That needs to be something. We need to get a survey from Game and Fish. It should be done before the leaves get out on the trees. I can't see the hunt happening this spring, but we've got to be looking to next winter, and we can't start next winter. We should have started a couple of weeks ago. Like I said, I'm not in favor of it, but I have a responsibility to bring it up, and so I'm gonna, if somebody else wants to second it for the next go-around,
I'll
then I
second
think
it.
we need to do it.
Okay. Motion made and seconded to put the deer ordinance back on the table for discussion. Any other discussion about it?
Please clarify the motion.
Restate your
Because
motion,
the way
sir.
he stated it and you said it, it's
Yeah.
two different
Well,
things.
We just need to get with the program on the deer ordinance, and it passed a vote, and it's our responsibility to fulfill our obligation to the public. Either say no or do it.
That's the motion.
We're still in discussion.
Yes, sir.
No, this is
Okay.
council comments. I
Okay, I'm
have the
sorry.
floor, and if you want to address that topic when it comes around to you, fine. And I'll relinquish my comments.
Thanks, sir. Ms. Balance?
I'd like to thank the gentleman who came to talk to us about yellow bags. That has been the number one comment I've had since I've been a city council person, is people being upset over the yellow bags. I'd like to perhaps have a fact-finding mission or something that shows how much the yellow bags cost, how much money we bring in from them, how much it costs to distribute them. I'll try to get some direction in that. I feel horrible for Mrs. Nellie Clark. And Ms. Clark, I will try to bring something to the table and get you some relief. I'm very sorry this has happened to you because of the mayor's public works department. So hopefully we can get you some relief, because if it had happened to my home or to my mother, I'd be distraught over it. And I'm sure if it happened to a home the mayor owned. Do you own a home?
No, ma'am. I rent.
Well, never mind then.
Thank you.
Also, I think we probably do need to perhaps have an agenda setting section at the end of our agenda so that we can put items on the agenda so that they can be published and people can be aware of what we're going to talk about. And so we'll avoid some of the problems that I've been facing the past week or so, trying to get things on the agenda and people seconding them and then they don't show up on the agenda. That's making it kind of hard for me to talk about things I want to talk about. So I'm hopeful we can work past that. Other than that, it was a beautiful day. I hope everybody got to enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kirkpatrick,
I've heard enough rattling for the night.
you ready to go home?
I'm done.
Mr. Pownall.
Sure. I have a couple things. First of all, I'd like to pass along to Ms. Balance that a place to start, and I understand the citizens don't get as much involved in the budget process as we do or should, that there is an expense line in the budget for yellow bags, and there's also a revenue. If you look at the revenue that comes into the city, I realize I get very aggravated every time I have to go to Hart's and buy my $9 worth of bags. But at the same time, I've looked at it different as a council person. Whenever I look at the revenue that those bags